Hi, welcome to Firepower and Firepower Threat Defense. In this section, we're going to cover a new policy called the identity policy. So let's get out to our FMC and take a look at another policy that's pushed out through the ACP. So I come to our policies here, right? We've got pre-filter, SSL, identity, DNS, malware, and intrusion, all put into the ACP. So I definitely need to open my ACP, and I definitely need my identity policy. Try that again. Come on, there we go. Okay. So we can't have an identity policy until we configure realms. That's what it's telling us. So I need to go to yet another place to configure the realms. I'm going to go under System, Integration. System, Integration to start this lab. So here I am. We had gone out here earlier. We were talking about the URLs being resolved in understanding their categories, right? So we had to enable this. This is for AMP here. But here we have to create a realm. This is going to connect me, in our example, to our AD. We'd also come in here to connect to our IPX grid server. So and we'll get to that in identity sources in this section right here as well. There are no realms, so I'm going to say let's create a realm and connect to my AD server. Okay, pod 1920 AD. And notice we can do LDAP or AD. You want to do AD here if you can, because this will allow me to have users and groups inside my rule of the ACP, and that's what we're really getting after here. Okay, so here I don't need the IP. I'm just going to put sfgtc.local. And on this one here, now the join, this is just a test here, administrator at sfgtc.local. And I will copy that, make it easier on me. And it's helpful, you got to really check for typos here. And then put in the password and make sure I didn't make any mistakes here. Now on this one here, we're going to do gtc.dc equals local, right? Just as fast type that in. No typo, maybe not. Okay, there we go. Now, just because I test this and it's probably going to say okay, that doesn't mean it's okay. Oh, it says failed. Let me double check that I didn't have a typo in here. Administrator. Let me double check my passwords. And just because it failed doesn't mean it's going to work either. I've seen it both. Just double check my password. The rest of it looks right. Whoops, that doesn't look right. Okay, administrator, DC. Yeah, it looks okay to me. So let's try it. If it doesn't work, I'll have to come back out here. So one of the things is that the realm will come up here. Now I need to create a directory on where the users are. So I'm going to say add directory. And 10, 11, 11, 250. And if this is listed on 389, this test will pass. Yeah, that succeeded. So we're looking pretty good. Do this, and then I can go out and see if it's working. Looking good, looking good. So I'll go to realm configuration here and verify all this. Now down here is for my active identity, basically telling people, hey, you're going to log in. If we could have them log in and have this authenticate them. I don't know a lot of people that use this, and it's kind of a hard lab to set up because people can use other products to do this, our port and so on. So Stealth Watch now. So the point is, but we can still do this here and then say, hey, you have to log in, and this is once a day. You can have them authenticate once an hour or so on. Test that again. All right, let's see if we download it, if it's working anyways. Just tell us right now. Boom. See, that test didn't really mean anything, did it? I couldn't find any problem with it. It says it was failing, so whatever. So I'm going to include, now I think, I'm trying to remember the amount of groups. I was at a customer that had thousands of groups. We couldn't get them all in here. The one thing is, that I think it's like 2,000 or 3,000, if I remember. But the one thing is here is we wanted to download new users and groups, right? That doesn't put them in the include though. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Now, there's a bug. No matter what, I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. And no matter what code I go into, it's the same thing. So I'm going to go back in here. And the way to get around this bug is we can come back and do it, but I'm just going to come here and do it now. I'm just going to download this again. And once it goes in here, that should solve in the bug, which I'll show you here in a second. So now I have to go to my identity policy, and there's a couple different policies, types of policies I can create here. Okay, good. I keep this very simple here. I just usually use passive, but we could use active, or we could use no authentication on certain zones. So that's kind of the way that you have to have this if you're going to integrate your AD in, right? So I know it's not real fast bringing that up, is it? But in this case here, here's my rules. They basically have some old categories here. It doesn't matter. We could add categories. I don't have that many rules I ever put in this to make it take my time. Now, one of the things I could do is say, you know, if it's going to the DMZ, right, I want to have it have, you know, active authentication, for example, maybe, or no authentication, whatever. If it's going to a wireless or guest wireless zone, then I'm going to say you're going to have no authentication because we don't care about the users that go through there. Well, what I want to do is I do care about the users going through. I'm going to make a passive rule. And now I could do the zones in this case, but I'm just going to do any. And I could do, say, if they're using this such and such port, make them authenticate, or this such and such network, and so on. Notice it's layer 3, 4. All right, now, but what I'm going to do is come over here and just add my realm. And so if I add in the active authentication, I have to do all my certificates and stuff. It gets a little complicated. It can be done. Now, so watch this. If I do this, so what's kind of nice is we could give them, you know, a splash screen. They log in, and we can say the available applications, right, what they can use, and so on. So basically, they could log in, see if what we can find here. 0. So we can't use, say, Netflix or something like that. So if we looked through here, let me do this. Hold on. And tried to scroll down here. So, you know, basically we could say that the authentication for certain types of applications, we can pick those in here. Layer 3, 4 stuff again. Now, I'm not going to use active authentication here. I'm just going to use passive. So we'll see and we'll capture this information as users come through and they passively authenticate to the AD coming through the Firepower box. So let me come now up here to my ACP, and where do we apply this? So it says applied to 0 devices, right? So I thought in this case here, I want to come to my ACP. Thought I had that open. Now, here's my ACP that I'm using. I'm going to go ahead and open this up, and we're going to go ahead and apply the identity policy. So where do we put the identity policy? Well, they have those quick links, right, up here. That's where we put our pre-filter, our SSL, and our identity policies here. That's just going to take me here. Because as you remember, the settings here, here's where I set my identity policy. So I'll go and put that in here. And add that in. And then got SSL, pre-filter, and our NAP, which we haven't gotten to yet. And remember, for our DNS policy, we put that here under Security Intelligence. And for our, if we come back here under Policies again, and I was to look, the intrusion and malware are done through a rule, aren't they? The rest are done through the Security Intelligence or Advanced tab. So now I'm going to go ahead and save this. And before I deploy it, I'm going to come back out here. And this should work. I usually leave this open because sometimes it doesn't work. You have to come back out here and download the groups again. But I want to come under an integration and go to identity sources. Now I can pick ICE here, which is what you should do, or we could go kind of what we'll call old school now and put in what's called the SourceFire user agent. So I'm going to add that in here and save this. This obviously doesn't need to be deployed, but the other part did. Now what we'll do is we'll deploy this, and I want to go out and show you that SourceFire, or it's called Firepower user agent now, on my server, and also we're going to be able to test some of this and see that this is working. Okay, let's check here, and we're just about done here. It's at 4 minutes, 32 seconds. Now, while this is finishing here, let me go out here and go to my server here. And this is what's called the Firepower user agent. Now, here it is right here. It's kind of hard to get. You have to run this on a server. Now, you can run this on any Windows machine, just has to connect to your ADs, and you could run it on all your ADs, right? I can only put 5 FMCs in one Firepower user agent. Most people don't have 5, but you never know. Anyway, so you install it and then you enable it. You put in your server. Now, if this is running on the AD, you go ahead and add one in here and you call it localhost. You can't put anything but that won't work. The IP address. Now, if you're running on another host and you want to get information, that you just have to have admin availability as a user to get this information. Okay, so notice that that's up and running. So then you save this. And then you come out here and add the FMCs. Notice that it's talking to these. Now it's capturing log on, log offs of users and gathering user AD information. So we could use it in Firepower Network Discovery, which is my next section. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that. That's looking good. Come back over here. There's my deployment. Actually, really didn't need to deploy this to make this work. The way that I test this now is how is this working here, is I'm going to come here to my ACP, I'm going to go to rules, and this is why I did this. And watch this. Notice my users no longer has that triangle. If you've been looking at the past videos, that had a triangle the whole time. Well, there's my AD, and if this should, yeah. Now remember how I downloaded that twice, so I didn't see the bug. Right, in here, this wouldn't show up. You'd see this here, it wouldn't come up. You have to go download it again. It's just kind of a feature, I guess, because it just never goes away. So what this is going to allow me to do is come back over here, and this is what I really wanted to do anyways. Get rid of the VLAN IPs and use the users here. So now I could come in here, click on this, there, and then type in marketing or sales or whatever it is. In this case, and search on them. Now this is a much better rule. Now, just to be clear on something like this, guys, for this to work, your FTD boxes or ASA with Firepower, your appliances, whatever, have to be able to communicate to the FMC. So, because it'll come back and check, right? It'll come back and say, hey, what is this marketing? Are they authenticated? So, if I lose my FMC, if it goes down, it gets corrupted, whatever, my FTD boxes or my Firepower devices are still going to be able to block, do whatever they do. They can't look up malware, though, because the malware is sent to the FMC to go to the AMP Cloud or to Talos. The same thing with the AD. So you would lose malware lookups and your AD. So I've had customers call me and says, hey, we lost our FMC, it's not working. Now everyone can get to Facebook. Well, yeah, because they were using AD to block everyone. It makes sense. So really, I just want to create my rules in here. This is a great way to do it. I typically have all customers just use a passive identity. And if once we do the network discovery policy, we'll be able to capture that data into our network discovery policy. So let's come back over here for one more second here and get out of my server there and get into here. And notice where the identity policy is, right? So it's right after my security intelligence. So now we're going to have our authentication, passive or active. Then we hit our ACP. Okay, so where is this inside the snort process? Very cool stuff, guys.